So remember, to solve an equation, you need to isolate the variable. So in this case, for number 1, x. So we distribute the -2. We get -2x. We distribute the -2 to the 3. We get -6. You combine like terms. So 4x minus 2x is 2x. And then we need to get rid of the 6. So we add 6 to both sides. And 8 plus 6 would get us 14. We then divide by 2. So x is 7, so your answer is D. Now for the next one, you're going to want to look in your notes. But I'll give you one that is kind of similar. So if I said there are a certain amount of things happening and we don't know what, right? We need to put a number in front of a variable. And then I could say I'm adding or subtracting a certain number, and it's going to equal the total amount that I'm spending, and then you're going to solve for x. So if I was talking about 8 people, I would put in 8x here. If I was adding on a certain amount in total, like if they were all 8 people were getting popcorn, then and the popcorn was $3 each, 8 times 3 would be 24, so I would do 8x plus 24, and let's say we spent $100, that would equal 100. If I had 8 friends, let's say, this is hypothetical, and each person, the cashier gave each person back $3, that would be minus 24 if they spent 100. So when you solve for x, you're solving to find the amount of the ticket. So that's something similar. So number 3, remember this has consecutive even integers. So even would be like 2, then 4, then 6, and so on. So you always call your first slot x, right? Now, if the next number needs to be even, it can't be x plus 1. It's got to be x plus 2. Because to go, for example, from 2 to the next even number 4, you would have to do, if x was 2, 2 plus 2 would get you 4. So for consecutive, even, and odd, it's x plus 2, and so on, equals the total number. You solve for x, and when you do that, you get 36. But it says, what are the two numbers? So the first one's 36, and the next even one is 38. If it just says consecutive numbers, remember consecutive numbers would be like 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. So the first thought would be x plus 1, x plus 2, equals whatever your total amount is, let's say 100, right? And then you would add in between, solve for x, that would be your first number, and then you could get the other numbers from there. So again, what I just described is for consecutive integers, and example 3, that's for consecutive even integers. Notice how they're slightly different. So for one similar to this first one, remember you first solve for x, and if it's the same number equals same number, that's many solutions. If the numbers are different, it's no solution. So for example, let's say I solved something and I had 2x plus 4 minus 1x is equal to x plus 5. As I start to solve for x, I would combine like terms. So I'd have x plus 4 equals x plus 5. So I start to solve for x. I get my x's on one side. Oh no, the x's disappear. When the x's disappear and it's one number equals a different number, like 4 equals 5, that's not true. So that's why that would be no solution. If I solved and I got, for example, 4 is equal to 4, that would be many solutions. So that's a scenario where you would have one or the other. So for number 3, I'm not going to do that one exactly, but we're going to do one similar. So if I wrote, for example, 2/3 times x minus 4 minus x is equal to 5 plus 3x. So we first distribute. So we get 2/3 x. Now, off to the side, I'm going to do 2/3 times negative 4 over 1. So on top, we would have negative 8 over 3 minus x equals 5 plus 3x. Then you want to combine like terms. So on the left, we have 3x minus x is 2x is equal to, 2x minus 8/3 is equal to 5 plus 3x. And then you could minus your 2x on both sides. Sorry, it's kind of messy. And then you'd have 8/3 is equal to 5 plus x. And then when you subtract 5, it's the same as all the other problems, it's just fractions. So you have 8/3 minus 5/1 equals x. You need to have common denominator, so if we multiply the right side by 3, we get 15/3. So 8 minus 15 is negative 7/3x. Or you could say 3 goes into 7 2 times. So 2 times 3 is 6 with 1 remaining. That's the same answer as well. So for number 4, it says many solutions. So I talked about this a second ago. When you're solving and your variable goes away and it's same number equals same number, that's many solutions. So for example, when I look at these, for A, the 3x's cancel. And since -1 equals 1, that would be no solution. For B, if I add 2x on both sides, you see that I would end up with an actual answer of x is 1/2. The variable doesn't go away, so that would not be many solutions. Same thing with C. I would be able to solve for C and get x is 5. So again, that's one answer, not many solutions. But notice for D and E, I would get many solutions. I showed you an example for E. When you distribute, on the right, you would get 2x plus 2. On the left, we had 2x plus 2. And if you move the x to one side, so if we subtract 2x, my x's disappear, and 2 equals 2 is a true statement. The x is gone, so that's many solutions. Okay, so for number 1, when it tells you to isolate a certain variable, it's the same as dealing with numbers. Okay, so write your equation. And if I'm trying to get n by itself, pretend the n is an x. Pretend that this m is a number. So you would subtract m from both sides, then it's gone. So you would have a minus m is equal to negative n. Remember that n isn't isolated. In front, it's a -1. So you have to divide by -1. So you could either leave it as n is equal to a minus m over -1, but technically you shouldn't leave a 1 on the bottom. So you would get -a plus m. That would be your answer. Okay, so for number 2, it's talking about someone traveling a certain amount of miles, 15 miles, but then they're going at a rate of 20 miles per hour. Find the time in hours. So you just take your distance and you multiply it by your rate. So I take my distance, if it's 15 miles. Now if I want miles to cancel, the miles has to go on the bottom. So we know the 20 miles goes on bottom and the 1 hour goes on top. The miles cancel, so you have 15 over 20 hours, and it's 3/4 hours. But not simplified would be 15 over 20.